to you. Today is Monday, the 2nd of February 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. So, this week is about one thing: turning highly complex and advanced manufacturing from capacity led to capability led. And capacity is what you get out of the door, and capability is things that you can sell without selling your products, but are related to. So I'm aiming this for UK public listed company non-executive director chairs, CFOs, COOs, and CTOs who keep hearing the same ballpark story: more volume, more utilization, a bit more pricing. It is familiar, but also is fragile. So today we are going to start the shift that sits underneath the rest of the week. So moving from build to print, so commodity style production, to intellectual property led growth, right? So I have an overarching um, connection this week, which is from capacity to capability. So when boards say we need growth, what they often mean is we need pricing power, predictability demand, and better margins. In complex international supply chains, for example, in aerospace, and if you can take aerospace as an example, that literally can replicate it in any other environment in terms of international complexity, supply chains, or manufacturing, that rarely comes from pushing labor harder. So in terms of activities, it comes from owning something that gets reused: know-how, data, designs, software, patents, and certificable processes. So a quick way to spot the differentiation is to ask, does this revenue behave like a job or like an asset? And here's the key: is a job or an asset? So a job, and I'm oversimplifying this, by the way, needs you, your plant, your people, every single time. An asset continues to produce value even when you step back, because the value is embedded in the system. And when I mention system, I'm not saying software specifically. It could be is the workflows, what you have documented, the triage that these workflows follow, like is who is responsible for what, when, which is a priority, what are the next steps, how is reported, how is evidence, etc., etc. So that's a system. So let's take a look at three things to consider when going through a scenario like going from capacity to capability. Number one, in UK, businesses invest heavily in intangibles such as research and development, software, design, and organizational capital. But boards still treat them as a cost lines rather than as a growth engine. That mindset keeps the business stuck in a volume and utilization thinking. The circumstance number two is, if you do not identify and protect your intellectual property, you struggle to commercialize it. Most businesses only notice this after value leaks through partners, suppliers, or people that are leaving the company with the know-how. And to illustrate this, I'm going to use a live listed aerospace supplier I am watching in London Stock Exchange, which says it spent 4.4% of the revenue on research and development and research and technology, and this is from their disclosures 2023. They filed 17 patents that year and is developed products including high-speed data transmission solutions based on optical technologies such as fiber and high-speed bidirectional wireless communication technologies. So that are used, for example, for your in-flight entertainment systems. You know, the TVs, the headphones, etc., etc. So if you cannot translate that into protected, repeatable revenue, you are paying for innovation without getting an asset back. So, in other words, imagine that treating IP as an afterthought is like paying for a new engine, right? Then you never feed that engine into any vehicle, the aircraft or your car. So you have a wonderful engine there that you pay for, you put your brains, sweat and tears to develop, but never put an assembly line to product this to the market, to put it in any kind of vehicle. Is there doing nothing? Well, not doing nothing. You have all the knowledge how to do these things, but actually you cannot monetize that. So here's the reality of this. Public markets do not reward that effort. They reward repeatability. That is why this topic matters to non-executive directors and CFOs, and not only to CTOs. If your growth plan is still mainly a capacity plan, you get trapped in a pattern. More contracts, more complexity, more working capital, more operational risk. And when the program mix shifts or a customer pushes back on price, you are exposed because you are all about contract complexities, working capital, and operation. So, what do you do about, and particularly when you want to have this board proof? So, as an advisor, what I will propose to consider in these cases, and remember, this is and it applies to any complex supply chain manufacturing process. First thing, run an intellectual property audit on your own company and ring fence what matters. The goal is a board level map. What we own, what is shared, what is licensed, and what will hurt us if it's copied. Number two, turn operational know-how into system assets. And remember, system is not software, it's all the processes that you document and are repeatable. If you cannot capture your method in systems, you cannot scale beyond your best people. So that digital readiness evidence in UK manufacturing keeps pointing to this adoption gap. So you have an advantage there. So it's a gap already in the market that you can take advantage of. Number three, link your intellectual property to a commercial path. Decide which innovations defend the core. So the cost, quality, and compliance, that's for you. And which create new revenues, the platform add-ons, recurring services, data products. If you do not decide, everything becomes just research and development, as we mentioned, and nothing becomes a product. So let me make this practical for your next board discussion, if you may. There are three tests I use when leadership asks about these things. They are protectability, repeatability, and monetization. So protectability is, can we actually protect this advantage with patents, trade secrets, contracts, and access control? In terms of repeatability, can someone competent reproduce the outcome without the hero who invented it? So you build an engine or a software, or whatever is the case, or a system or a rig. So, but people put their minds there and put it together, and they are working perfectly fine. So, can that work without them? Number three, monetization. Do we know who pays for what and how often? So, can we go to market, in other words? So, if you pass the first two, but fail the third, I mean, if you pass protectability and repeatability, but you don't monetize, you have an innovation project, not a growth engine. So, you cannot put that as a part of the growing plan. But if you pass the third one, actually you're monetizing this, but you're failing on the first two, which is protecting it and making it repeatable, you have a sales story, not a defensible advantage, right? So you have to have the three of them. And here is a diagnostic question that forces the issue. Which of our technical advantages still exist if the customer moves their work package to another supplier? And I'm going to explain this. If you cannot answer, your differentiation is probably embedded in the people rather than in the assets. So what is the intellectual property-led growth that shows us in practice? It shows us when you stop bundling value into unit prices and start breaking it out. And I'll show you which is the breakout. For example, a process that reduces rework becomes a licensable method. A test rig becomes a paid capability. A data transmission product becomes a platform upgrade. A digital thread that shortens qualification cycles becomes a service. So, as you see, these are things that are probably embedded in your own processes and systems to develop products. But if you start to strip them out of your own process and license them or patent them or commercialize them, it starts to become another revenue stream out of your intellectual property. So none of this needs fantasy number. It needs discipline and governance. So why then intellectual property-led growth in practice approach matter. Why matters? For three things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reductions. In terms of outcomes, you use the assets lens to help boards separate capacity revenue from capability revenue so you can prioritize your intellectual property that can carry margin throughout the cycles. In terms of differentiator, you treat patents, proprietary processes, and technical know-how as a portfolio with owners, protections, and commercial plan, not as a scattered initiatives, right? And in terms of risk reduction, you anchor the work in recognized UK guidance and retrievable evidence. So your innovation narrative stays defensible in filings and in with investor conversation, which is more important because we are growing in capability, not only in capacity. So one action you can take home today and is doable in 30 minutes or less. List your top 5 unique capabilities. Then write down what evidence proves you own them and who would buy them from you again and again and again. Right. So let's pause it here for today and reconvene tomorrow, because today I said the overarching theme of the week, from capacity-led to capability-led. And tomorrow we shift to capital structure, because an intellectual property-led strategy fails fast if the balance sheet removes runway. You need runway to do this. Now, if you are a UK company, a board executive, and you want the assets lens applied to your growth plan, set up a 30-minute call so I can understand your position and how an independent international advisory board looking from the outside in can help you and your team without stepping on your toes, without the traditional consulting overhead, and without the public theater. Right, so have a great